None other than Dhruv Sawhney, genius with achievements.
So, that time you learned, my grandfather had put up many sugar factories, of how to evaluate partnership. We have to pay back the loan that our parents took.
Joint venture with a company like GE just increases over 30% in the last 3 years. So Dhruv, if you were to give a piece of advice to budding entrepreneurs,
I don't mind taking risks. There will be downside. The jugaad is giving value to the customer. You have to be multinational. India can't be your global market. This is a very exciting time.
and if you peep into the future, and what do you think would be the opportunity for India?
Fairly underutilized. This combination to a customer is very, very competitive.
But what's helped Triveni actually become the most profitable company?
We have to change the whole culture.
Do you move your moves because you always think ahead?
If you're head of a sports federation, nobody can throw you out.
Yeah.
Your talent will never come up. Two deficiencies which we all know is education and health. This is really your time.
Welcome to the second episode of Learning from Experiences by Executive Access India. Here we talk about success mantras, what has made people successful, what traits, qualities, thinking has helped them achieve what they have managed to, and hopefully learn from them. I'm delighted to be having a person who I really, really admired, known for over 2 decades, none other than Dhruv Sawhney. Dhruv, as we all know, is the chairman of Triveni Engineering and Industries, as well as Triveni Turbines. A multifaceted genius, a visionary with achievements that will actually make anyone proud. It may interest you to know that the profits of the company today exceed what the turnover was when he took over. Welcome to this episode, Dhruv.
Thank you. Thanks, Ronesh. Thank you.
So, Dhruv, when you look across at your journey, what are some of the highlights and something which is close to your heart?
Well, I think my journey started after I came back from doing an MBA, and I had an interesting an MBA. I did an MBA at Wharton.
Yes, and you were on the dean list.
Yeah, and I also happened to come second, so there's 1%, and that's quite good because I got a job in New York. I wanted it only in New York, and it was at the start of this revolutionary MISs with software, the Nabisco. And I worked with them for a year and a half. I had to leave because of my visa. And when I left, they said, "Why do you want to leave?" I said, "I want to go back. There's a family business." They said, "So you're a shareholder. Why do you want to go back?"
Yeah.
So, that time you learn to be a little forceful. So I said, "If I'm so good, how long will you keep this offer open for?" They said, 18 months. And they said, "Well, you're doing some consulting in Europe. So why don't you go first class to London?" And I was put up at Claridge's. That's where I got my last paycheck. But I think they've got back to me. Since then, of course, they've been taken over. But that was the start of India at a fairly close situation. And unfortunately, when I started, the companies were not doing very, very well. And there's a bit of a shift from my grandfather's time, who really sort of set this up in the early 30s. He passed away when I was about 10 years old. Quite a remarkable man. And he gave a lot of traits that I feel I've really started exploiting now, the last 10 years. And possibly we can touch on why that's happening now and not earlier. It's to do with both India, where the company was, and the sort of confidence level that you've got over time. But I would say that the 3 or 4 watershed parts, some of which I didn't learn from, was of how to evaluate partnerships. overseas partners. It's
Right.
actually very difficult. And because it's so difficult, I'm not too sure whether I would recommend that to everybody today. I would say they should concentrate on going more on their own.
And what is some of the success mantras for yours, for future leaders?
As I said, I think you need to have risk return ability,
Right.
and you need to trust your team.
Right.
Everyone will not be perfect,
Correct.
but you need to trust the team.
Hmm.
And that's the only motivation, inspiration you can give. And I think if you have I would say governance and fairness is something that you should truly believe in.
Hmm.
And lastly, I would say for people in India, this is your time.
Hmm.
This is really your time.
The golden age?
I won't say golden age, opportunity. So don't think of what the Tatas are doing or huge groups are doing. And lastly, if you have the confidence, money will not be the problem. Today, it's not a capital-intensive economy. It's
Right.
a knowledge-intensive economy. So when it's a knowledge-intensive economy, you better have the capacity for hard work,
Right.
which is a little lacking in the West now, and the ability to innovate.
So, Dhruv, you have actually groomed your children very well. I have sort of interfaced and worked with Tarun and Nikhil, and they're very forward-looking, very business-savvy, and it's not easy. I mean, to groom your children, the way
Well,
you
it's
have.
not really groom. They're their own. I mean, they've done it themselves. Been to Cambridge and to Wharton, and they're part of a great international organization where they get the recognition.
Right.
And they're great team players and motivators. So, they want to follow the same structure of governance and how we move.
Right.
So it's been easy because we've somehow had come into the same value system.
Hmm.
So that makes it much better. That I hadn't had to teach a value system. It's come naturally.
Right.
If I give you a small example of my grandfather,
Right.
he set up the sugar industry
Right.
in India in the 1930s.
Right.
So in 1946, he had ordered a sugar plant.
Hmm.
And just to give you an idea of how diversified the family was, two ladies from Almora, Christians. One became Muslim and married Liaquat Ali, and one became Hindu and married my chacha, who didn't have any children, my father's younger brother.
Right.
And so this factory was going to be put up in Mardan,
Right.
in Swat, which is now the heart of the Taliban area.
Correct.
And then partition took place. So
Right.
Liaquat and some others, I told my grandfather that you've given your word to the people of Swat.
Hmm.
You can't send this to India now.
Right.
So we did it, and we gave it to Mir Afzal, who was one of the lions of the frontier.
Hmm.
We are from the frontier, we are Pathan,
Right.
like Sheikh Abdullah.
Right.
For 1 rupee. Musharraf used to call me the 1 rupee Indian. And now even the street is named after, it's called the Thane Waliati Gali still today. And it's looked after by the nephew of Mir Afzal.
Oh, I see.
So I meet him in Dubai a lot. And the Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, who I didn't know him, but when he came here many years ago, he said we have two friends in India at that time, Salman Khurshid and Dhruv Sawhney, who I hadn't met. But that was the sort of value system that he had. And we went in the 1950s, he went into life insurance because he felt that we needed to do that for everybody. To him, life insurance, we got nationalized.
Right.
It was a motivational thing to do.
Hmm.
Similar to the charitable hospital we put up in Nagpur.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, that is a sort of a value system that fortunately the boys and me have carried. And I think it permeates down to the company. Every officer, employee knows that you're not being exploited. You're being very transparent,
Right.
high governance standards
Right.
for the purpose of making us leaders, not for the purpose of social good.
Right.
That's a separate issue,
Right.
but for the purpose of making you efficient.
Dhruv, you're also very passionate about chess, and you're a strategist. Being the president, and for viewers, I can tell you his team has just won the trophy as well, and
For the second time.
for the second time in succession. I mean, how much has chess helped you as far as a businessman is concerned? Does the strategy come from there, or do you move your moves because you always think ahead?
When I was president of the Chess Federation
Right.
for 12 years. And I think I'm one of the only people who gave it up voluntarily.
Right.
Because if you're in India, if you're head of a sports federation, nobody can throw you out.
Yeah, nobody gives up either.
No, nobody can throw you out because you're voted by the state association and
Right.
you appoint them.
Right.
So, I mean, how does it happen? But the only contribution that one did, I got some advice from Soviets that they said, Mr. Sawhney, you know why Russia, the Soviet Union, that time is so successful in chess? No, tell me, please. He says, because we play so many tournaments.
Right.
So we automatically get the ranking. India never, if you don't play tournaments,
Right. You don't.
you'll never move. Your talent will never come up. And the second is, which we haven't done as much, is chess is a game where you have to start early.
Right.
By 12 or 15, you have to. And the third, he said, was that you invented the game. So you have that DNA for it.
Right.
So I think I helped a little bit in having many more tournaments. Government had to fund it. So that's how we now today have vast number in the top 10.
Correct.
I think if you ask me, my next movement would be to have this happen with the ladies as well. You know, empowerment there has to happen.
Correct.
It's happening in chess.
Yes.
And maybe chess can be the forerunner for this women empowerment all over India, in other lines, you know. But a huge comparative advantage, which I learned then, was the hidden talent that is there in gender neutrality.
Right.
It is tremendous. And we have not done enough in that. We are having, maybe chess is helping that a bit.
Right.
So I'm wanting to move in that direction also. But I think the game of chess, especially in the time of Vishy, who is coming up,
Yes.
is a question of having confidence. And the second thing that one learned in chess is hard work, perseverance. You have to
Keep at it.
keep at it. There's no substitute.
Right.
And you will lose. Okay,
Right.
how do you get out of it?
Right.
Because it's a very mental game.
Yeah. Correct. You're pushed back against the wall and you could still win.
Yeah.
But getting to the topic on the board, I mean, you're one of the few who really reshaped the board, inducting literally 4 members on the board at virtually the same time. I mean, there not too many companies do that. I mean, what was the thought process and how important is the board in this general business sense and how much can it help a company grow?
I think it's highly underrated what the board can bring. Firstly, if you are confident that you have a good governance structure and you want to have growth, then you've got to go for people and give them you see, it's not just the respect. And we have tried to involve each member in a subcommittee
Yes.
so that they have limited time. They're not operating. So they have limited time and say that, we'll cut our board meeting short, but could we take so much more of your time, so many hours in 2-3 meetings of the technical committee we've now just set up a committee on talent management. Now, to me, that's training and development. I mean, whether talent management is a head of a functional area or there's a machine operator, it's still talent management.
Correct.
And that's going to be your differentiator. So these are not committees mandated by the company law board.
Right.
These are things that I felt we need, which we can't do internally.
Right.
So it's a combination of having them and maybe some outside advisors also on the committee and our team. So if you I have now, we are just having our board meeting. I've tried to shape the presentation to the board in 3 sections. The first is to say what you've done in the last quarter, because you're going to publish your results.
Right.
So one is the financial results, which has to be done in a certain through audit committee, etc. And then you talk about that.
Right.
The second is where are the next 6 months coming? And this is not a strategy meeting. And the third, which it's taken me time, is for the team to put up the 3 problem areas and say, we need your views and a discussion on it.
Right.
So be upfront about it, because that's why you have them.
Correct. Correct.
They are leaders in their own line,
Absolutely.
and it's easy to put up the goody-goody things only.
Correct.
But what are the 3 advanced problem areas? May not be very large problem areas.
Right.
They are areas that you're thinking about now. So,
Absolutely.
so for example, how do we manage this technology jump where we are growing it so fast?
Right.
What do we do on talent management?
Right.
How do you get your... we have hired a person, very senior person, into a realm called business excellence,
Right.
different from quality.
Right.
Now, business excellence to us is having true customer satisfaction to help your brand.
Right.
Because we are not a consumer company, so we're not something that TV is going to help the brand recognition. It's really word of mouth of your existing customers that's going to get you your brand.
Right.
And so we focus that onto an area.